Did you really convince yourself that every change after 60 is a red flag? You wake up in the middle of the night, sleep oddly, get tired faster, forget a name, and suddenly you're imagining a diagnosis as if your mind were an emergency room open 24 hours a day. And the saddest part is that this movie steals your peace right when you need it most. Growing older is not the same as being sick by default. Growing older means adapting with dignity, without dramatizing, without denying it, without turning every adjustment your body makes into a personal tragedy. Stay with me. Gabriel here. Welcome to the Stoic Garden. Today we are going to walk through 7 normal changes that show up after 60 and that many people mistake for illness when they are really part of life's natural adjustment. By the end, you will have a clear compass to stop being scared of what is normal, make sensible decisions, and regain inner control without living on edge over every symptom. And the last change, the social one, is the most liberating because it gives you back the right to choose without guilt. Let's begin. 1. Accept that your sleep changes and learn to rest without obsessing over it. At a certain age, the body stops sleeping like a teenager who crashes into bed and wakes up brand new. You wake up earlier, you get up to use the bathroom. It is harder to fall back asleep and your sleep becomes lighter. And the first thing many people do is declare themselves sick, as if simply opening their eyes in the middle of the night were some kind of medical tragedy. The problem is not just sleep. The problem is what you do with your mind when you cannot sleep. You start fighting with the bed. You look at the clock. You calculate how much time you have left. You get scared. You get angry. You pressure yourself. It is a ridiculous negotiation with time, and time never negotiates. The more you chase it, the more it slips away, because sleep does not work by brute force. It works by letting go. And here comes the irony. Obsessing over sleeping perfectly is what steals the rest you actually could have. Does it not seem absurd that you are in a dark, quiet room, lying down with your body at rest, and yet you act as if you were in a competition? The brain does not understand "I have to sleep right now." It understands safety. If you put it on alert, it keeps you awake. Period. The sensible thing is to stop demanding from your body a rhythm it no longer has. Accept that sometimes rest comes in the form of broken sleep, a short nap, getting up for a moment, breathing, and returning without making it a big deal. If you wake up, do not turn it into a personal battle. Get up, drink some water, lower the intensity, keep the lights dim, and go back when your body loosens up. And please, leave the clock alone. Looking at the time in the middle of the night is like pouring gasoline on the fire. The Stoics talked about this without ever mentioning pillows or melatonin. Chrysippus, one of the great thinkers of the school, said something very simple and brutally true. To resist the inevitable is to add suffering to what was already determined by the natural order. That is not resignation, it is intelligence. Your sleep changes, yes. Your task is to stop turning that change into a punishment. And that does not mean neglecting yourself. It means acting calmly. A little sunlight in the morning, moving your body even if it is just walking, eating a lighter dinner, cutting back on caffeine late in the day, making your bedroom a place for rest and not an office for worries. Basic things, boring things, the ones that actually work. Worrying looks glamorous. What works is putting your routine in order like an adult. It also means knowing how to tell the difference. If you snore loudly, if you gasp in your sleep, if you keep falling asleep while sitting down, if your mood crashes for weeks, that is not just age, that deserves professional attention. But most of the time you are not sick. You are in transition. And transition is not something you fight. It is something you support. And when you stop fighting your sleep, you get back something even more valuable than sleeping 8 hours straight. You get your authority over yourself back. Because rest does not begin when you close your eyes. It begins when you decide not to torture yourself for failing to meet an old expectation. And with that same logic, we move to the next adjustment, the body, which also changes, but it is not asking you to give up. It is asking you to be smarter. 2. Accept that your strength and recovery decline and adjust your pace without giving up. After a certain age, your body is still yours, but it is no longer that young employee who worked overtime without complaining. Now it sends you the bill much faster. A joint hurts after a careless movement. It takes longer to recover. You wake up stiff, you make the same effort, and the next day you feel like you got hit by an imaginary truck. And instead of reading that as useful information, many people take it as a sentence. I am finished. No, you are alive and getting older, which is exactly what is supposed to happen if you did not die first. What declines is not your value. What declines is the speed of repair. And even if your pride does not like it, that is perfectly normal. The classic mistake is insisting on the same intensity as always out of pure stubbornness, as if your body still had a factory warranty, as if in your 60s you could train, lift, run, sleep little, eat whatever you want, and still wake up fresh the next day. That fantasy is nice, but it does not pay for physical therapy. You have to change the strategy, not leave the game. If you used to do everything the hard way, now it is wiser to do more warm-up, more mobility work, more pauses. It helps to train with technique, with patience, with consistency. It helps to understand that muscle is not built only through effort. It is built through recovery too, and at this age recovery is sacred. Not because you are fragile, but because you are more valuable now and no longer in a stage of life where you need to play the hero for your ego. Right in the middle of this topic, an uncomfortable but necessary question comes up. Are you really going to measure your self-worth by how much you can lift today compared with 20 years ago? That is like crying because you no longer fit into the same pants you wore in your youth. That is not fairness. It is nostalgia dressed up as self-demand. The strongest thing you can do is adjust your pace without losing your intention. Some people give up out of pride because if they cannot do it the way they used to, they would rather not do it at all. That is what is truly sad. The body changes, yes, but it still responds to what you give it consistently. Walking, strengthening, stretching, working on balance, getting enough protein, sleeping better, staying hydrated. The basics again. The things no one brags about, the things that hold everything up. And there is also a mental shift here. You stop chasing explosive results and start chasing continuity. You stop wanting immediate outcomes and focus on not losing what you have gained. Because this is not about impressing anyone. It is about being able to get up from the couch without negotiating with your knees, carry your groceries without feeling like a martyr, and climb stairs without your heart scolding you. When you normalize this, you start to feel in control again. Every ache no longer scares you. Every wave of fatigue no longer humiliates you. You take it as a sign to adjust, not as an alarm of disaster. And with that calm, something else appears that many people confuse with illness, something you do not see in the muscles but in the mind, in those small lapses that start showing up when you are rushing and carrying too much noise inside. 3. Understand that short-term memory slips more and organize your life calmly. Once people reach their 60s, many start noticing the same thing. You walk into a room and forget why you went in there. A name sits on the tip of your tongue. Someone tells you something and 5 minutes later, you are not sure whether it happened yesterday or today. And then fear shows up, that inflated fear that turns an ordinary lapse into a horror movie. But let me ask you something. Do you really think your mind is designed to hold on to everything, all the time, without ever slipping, as if it were a brand new hard drive? You have lived for decades. You have seen things, carried worries, gone through losses, routines, stress, bad nights of sleep. And even so, you still demand perfect memory, perfect attention, perfect performance from yourself. That is not self-care. That is self-punishment dressed up as, I care about my health. Short-term memory, the kind that holds things for the moment, often starts to struggle more when there is hurry, anxiety, distraction, or lack of sleep. And guess what modern life is full of? Mental noise. You are thinking about 10 things at once and then feel shocked because you forgot one of them. It is like trying to hear a voice at a party with music blasting and then blaming your ears afterward. It is not that you cannot do it. It is that you are overloaded. The mature solution here is not to panic. It is to get organized. Keep your keys, wallet, and glasses in the same place. Write down what matters without embarrassment. Use alarms, reminders, a notebook, whatever works. Because this is not about proving to the world that your mind is still the way it used to be. It is about living calmly, without self-pressure, without turning every little lapse into a verdict. And if you want a Stoic anchor here, listen to Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who wrote reminders to himself so he would not lose his mind in the middle of wars and politics. He said that, The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. Therefore, guard carefully what you allow to dwell in your mind. And it fits perfectly here, because what destroys you is not forgetting a name. It is allowing fear to settle in and take command. Now, yes, there are signs you do not ignore. If the lapses are sudden, if you get lost in familiar places, if you no longer recognize people close to you, if there are major personality changes, that is not something you brush aside with, it is just age. That needs to be checked. But everyday forgetfulness, the kind that belongs to ordinary life, is managed with order and with less drama. Because when you accept this, you gain something enormous back: mental time. You are no longer chasing your own memory the way a police officer chases a thief. You walk alongside it. You support it. And with that same attitude, we return to the body, to the senses, which also change. And that does not mean you are broken. 4. Recognize that your vision and hearing change with age and get checked without panic. This is another classic. One day you notice that you are stretching your arm out to read your phone. Another day you turn up the volume on the TV. You start asking people to repeat themselves in noisy places. And once again the dramatic mind shows up, whispering that everything is a tragedy. The reality is simpler. The eyes lose flexibility over the years, close-up vision becomes more demanding, and lighting matters more. And hearing, especially at certain frequencies, also becomes more selective. It is not, "I am falling apart." It is, "My body has history," and that history comes with adjustments, not panic. The problem, once again, is not what changes. It is how you interpret it. Some people, out of pride, avoid wearing glasses, avoid getting their hearing checked, avoid saying, "I did not hear that," as if admitting it somehow stripped them of dignity. Dignity. Dignity is taking care of yourself. Dignity is not pretending to be tough when the smart thing to do is get checked and move on. And there is another question worth asking, because it hits a lot of people right in the ego. Would you rather see worse and hear worse just so you do not have to admit that you need a simple aid? That is like refusing to use a cane when it helps you walk more safely. That is not courage, it is stubbornness. The right way to live with this is practical. Better lighting at home, reading without straining, giving your eyes a break, regular checkups without obsession, and with hearing, it is the same thing. If conversations are getting harder to follow, if noise confuses you, if it always sounds like people are mumbling, get it checked. Not so you can scare yourself, but so you can regain quality of life. Because hearing poorly isolates you, and seeing poorly makes you feel unsafe, and that is when avoidable problems really begin. And as always, there are warning signs that are not up for debate. Sudden changes in vision, strange flashes, severe pain, sudden hearing loss, intense dizziness, those need attention. But what is gradual, typical, and age-related is managed with calm checkups and sensible decisions, not paranoia. When you stop being afraid of these adjustments, you regain your independence. You move with more confidence, communicate better, and start feeling capable again. And with that foundation, we move to the next change, one that hits a lot of people in their pride and in their clothes: metabolism slowing down and forcing you to be smarter about what you eat and how you move. 5. Accept that your metabolism slows down and adjust your portions and movement. This hits a lot of people where it hurts most, in the waistline and in the ego, because there comes a point when you eat the same as always, and suddenly your body decides to store more. It is not black magic, it is biology. Less muscle mass, lower daily energy use, shifting hormones, slower recovery. Your body does not burn the way it used to, and it is under no obligation to satisfy your nostalgia. What is optional is the story you tell yourself about it. Some people look at themselves and tear themselves apart. Some give up and stop caring. Others panic and throw themselves into absurd diets, as if the smart thing to do in your 60s were to live by punishing yourself. No, the smart thing is to adjust calmly, eat a little less, move a little better, protect your muscle like a treasure, and stop acting as if your body were betraying you. Because let us be honest, part of the problem is that many people want to keep eating like they did in their 30s while moving like they do in their 60s. That does not add up. It is like wanting to spend the same amount when the paycheck is no longer the same, and then getting angry at the bank. Your body is not the enemy. It is just doing the math. Right in the middle of this change, there is a question you would do well to face head-on. Are you willing to change 2 or 3 simple habits, or would you rather keep repeating that it is all age while sinking deeper into discomfort? Because yes, metabolism slows down, but you still decide whether to support it with discipline or with excuses. The key here is muscle, not for appearance, for function. Muscle is your metabolic engine, your support, your independence, and at this age, losing muscle does not just make you slower, it makes you more vulnerable. That is why walking is good, but you also need strength work, even if it is just with your own body weight, bands, machines, whatever you can stick with. And you need enough protein, real food, and more mindful portions, less mindless snacking, less comfort sugar, less of that, just a little that quietly turns into a daily habit. Seneca, who was not a personal trainer but understood self-control better than most, left a line that still serves you today. He said that it is not the person with little who is poor, but the one who wants more. And it applies here too. Eating is not what ruins you. What ruins you is wanting to eat the way you used to without paying the price. Desire without limits always collects. It just collects faster now. Adjusting portions does not mean living hungry. It means eating with intention. It means serving yourself and asking whether you really need another helping or whether you are eating out of habit. It means learning to finish satisfied, not stuffed. It means giving your body what it needs, not what your anxiety demands. And yes, at first it is annoying because habit complains, but then it settles down like everything does when you give it structure. And there is something else people rarely say. Metabolism does not depend only on food and exercise. It also depends on sleep and stress. If you sleep badly, your appetite gets thrown off. If you live tense, you eat to calm yourself. That is why what we talked about in the first point about sleep shows up again here. Everything is connected. It is not one body on one side and one mind on the other. It is the same system, and the system responds to how you treat it. Now be careful, because this is not meant to minimize real warning signs. If you are gaining weight suddenly for no clear reason, if there is persistent swelling, intense fatigue, major changes in appetite, or weight loss without trying, that should be checked. That is not something to cover up with, "It is just my metabolism." But in most cases, what is happening is simpler and less dramatic. Your body is asking for an update in habits, not an early funeral. When you accept this change, you stop punishing yourself and start building. And the curious thing is that once you bring order to food and movement, it is not just your body that improves. Your mood improves, your mind improves, and the energy with which you face the day improves. Because real self-care is not vanity, it is respect. And speaking of respect, the next change touches a very sensitive place. Your image. Your skin and hair change, and if you cling to fighting the mirror wins every time. Let's go there. 6. Understand that your skin and hair change and stop fighting the mirror. This is one of those topics people pretend does not matter to them until it does. The skin gets thinner, drier, spots appear, wrinkles become more noticeable. Hair gets finer, falls out more, turns grey and changes texture. And many people react as if their body was somehow disrespecting them. But your body is not disrespecting you. It is showing you the time you survived. And time leaves marks, as it should. The problem begins when your identity depends on looking the way you used to. That is when the mirror becomes a judge and you become your own defendant. This is not about resigning yourself and letting yourself go. It is about stopping a fight you cannot win. Yes, you can take care of yourself, moisturize, protect yourself from the sun, eat better, sleep, move, see a dermatologist if something unusual changes. All of that is sensible. What is not sensible is looking at yourself with anger because your face no longer obeys an older version of you. At some point in the middle of the day, you catch yourself thinking things like, "What happened to me?" And that is when it helps to pause. What happened to you? You lived. You worked. You endured. You raised children. You lost. You learned. You fell. You got back up. Are you really going to reduce all of that to a wrinkle or a white hair? That is like judging the value of a book by whether its corners are worn. Ridiculous. There is a gentle kind of sarcasm that makes it plain. People want to look young but with experience. They want the body of 30 and the wisdom of 60. They want the calm of someone mature without paying the price of time. That does not exist. Life does not come at a discount. The Stoic path here is to choose dignity. Epictetus, who was a slave before becoming a philosopher, had a brutally practical way of reminding you where your power really lies. He insisted that you do not control what happens to you, only what you do with it. And your skin, your hair, your appearance largely belong in that category. You can care for them, you can manage them, but you cannot command them. So instead of suffering over what does not obey, direct what is still in your hands. Take care of your skin for health, not out of fear. If it gets dry, moisturize. If the sun is harsh on you, protect yourself. If a new spot appears or something changes in a strange way, get it checked. That is what an adult does. But stop using the mirror as a weapon. Do not look at yourself to punish yourself. Look at yourself to recognize that you are still here and that you can still treat yourself well. And let me tell you something many people struggle with. There is a different kind of beauty that appears when you stop begging for approval. People notice it, not because of the number of wrinkles, but because of the energy. A person who accepts themselves looks stronger than a person who hides. The one who lives trying not to age becomes tense, bitter, reactive. The one who accepts it becomes serene, steady, even more attractive in a deeper sense. Because in the end, this is about identity. Are you your body as it once was, or are you the character you have built? If the shine of youth is taken away, what remains? If the only thing holding you up was your appearance, you collapse. But if you are supported from within, the external change does not destroy you. It simply updates you. And when you stop fighting the mirror, the last adjustment appears. The quietest one and the most decisive. Your social life gets filtered down. You no longer have the energy to carry everyone, and to many people's surprise, that is not a loss. It is a liberation. 7. Accept that your social life becomes more selective and choose quality over quantity without guilt. After 60, something very normal happens. You no longer have the energy to keep up with the same number of people, commitments, calls, birthdays, group chats, and conversations you used to. And no, that does not mean you're becoming bitter or that you are fading away. It means your energy has finally become more selective. Before, people threw themselves into everything out of inertia, to keep others happy, to avoid feeling strange, out of fear of being left out. But there comes a point when you already know the cost of spending an afternoon with people who drain you. It does not cost 2 hours. It costs the evening, it costs your sleep, it costs your mood the next day. And that is when the body, which no longer wants to pretend, starts placing limits you should have set years ago. The funny thing is that many people read that filter as a symptom. I do not feel like going out anymore. Something must be wrong with me. Must there? Or could it be that you just no longer feel like wasting your time? Or that empty conversations no longer excite you just for the sake of filling silence? It is one thing to lose interest in what is superficial and another thing to be ill. And confusing the two makes you live with guilt over something that is actually bringing order to your life. And here comes the soft blow, sarcasm included. Some people think that having a social life means being available to anyone at any time for any drama, as if your peace were a public service. No, thank you. At this age, it no longer makes sense to have many, if those many leave you drained, tense, or feeling used. This social filtering is not rejection. It is clarity. You stay with the people who add something, the ones with whom you can be yourself, the ones where there is respect, where there is presence, not just habit. And you let go of what was only obligation, only routine, only, maybe this time it will be different. Spoiler, it will not. It only wears you down. Halfway through this point, it is worth asking yourself something without sugarcoating it. How many people in your life truly listen to you and care for you, and how many only come looking for you when they need something? And why should you feel guilty for choosing better? Guilt appears when you believe you owe yourself to everyone, but you were not born to be the glue holding lukewarm relationships together. Now, this is not about shutting yourself away out of pride and calling it peace. If you are isolating yourself out of sadness, if you have stopped enjoying absolutely everything, if you have felt shut down for weeks, that should be looked at. That is not something to romanticize, but in most cases, what is happening is much simpler. You're becoming more honest with yourself. And that honesty brings a great reward. You stop performing. You stop pretending to be interested. You stop wasting energy maintaining the image of, I am the one who is always there. You start choosing 2 or 3 real connections, and with that alone, you are already in better company than with 20 people who barely see you. Because in the end, Aging is not about losing people. It is about losing tolerance for what is not worth it. And once you understand that, the panic ends. You are no longer searching for signs of illness in every change. You are learning to live this stage with dignity, calm, and discernment. If you made it this far, then you can already see it clearly. Many changes after 60 are not illness. They are a natural update of the body and of life. The problem was not your broken sleep, your slower recovery, or your weaker short-term memory. The problem was the fear with which you were interpreting it all, as if aging were an enemy instead of a process. Now, it is your turn to make it real. Watch your day with calm and firmness, adjust what can be adjusted, and let go of the need to control what cannot. Rest better without obsession, move intelligently, organize your mind without shame, check your senses without panic, care for your body without punishment, and choose your people without guilt. That is self-respect, and at this age, self-respect is medicine. If this video helped clear your mind, subscribe and walk with me on this path. And leave me a comment with this phrase, so I know you are on the side of calm with character. I am Stoic. And if you want, tell me what country you are listening from, because this garden is built by real people who choose to live with more inner control and less drama. Gabriel here. This is the Stoic Garden. On screen you will see 2 recommended videos to keep going deeper and strengthen this stage of life with more clarity and less fear. Keep walking with steady purpose, because age does not take away your power. It takes away your excuses.